So, hello and welcome to one of the Outpost Frequencies extra podcasts this week. I'm your host, not George Lucas, and with me this week is Eggy.
Hello.
We have both been to see Batman, and we have differing opinions on the whole thing. The Batman has just come out of the cinema, starring Robert Pattinson, directed by Matt Reeves. The reviews have been mixed about it. So let's first of all talk about, I don't think there's any in particular order that we can talk about things, but let's talk about the cast, first of all, of the movie. What did you make of Pattinson?
I thought he was surprisingly brilliant.
Brilliant's a strong word.
Well, I'll tell you why I thought he was brilliant. Let me just put my tea down. I think he played Batman as his real personality, which is something that's been touched upon in the past with Burton's films and Nolan's films, the whole split personality thing. But I've always found that Michael Keaton and Christian Bale were always quite comfortable being Bruce Wayne. I found that Robert Pattinson was extremely uncomfortable being Bruce Wayne.
Okay.
He spoke with a softer voice. He was more hunched over. He kind of felt like he was unsure of himself. And then when
as Bruce Wayne,
yeah, he didn't like his surroundings. He didn't like being part of the daytime.
Right.
And then you see him as Batman at night, and he's obviously got he's standing taller, he's more confident, he's intimidating. And if you watch the film, there's a few times when he's Bruce Wayne, he doesn't make eye contact with people.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think that now. And yeah, apart from maybe the little kid, who obviously he identified with because of what the kid went through.
Yes, and obviously he did it with Falcone at the funeral, speaking. But if you see him when he's kind of talking to Alfred or just having general conversations, he's very quiet and soft. And if you go back to, remember Kill Bill? Have you seen Kill Bill? You must have seen it.
Yeah.
Right, so Bill at the end is obviously talking about Superman, and he's explaining how Superman is his real person and that Clark Kent is actually the disguise.
Yes.
And I felt that was with this. I felt that Batman was the real personality and Bruce Wayne was this disguise that he was carrying on, and he had to do it and he hated it. So for me, I don't know. I just thought that was just such a nice, subtle take on it. And again, going back to Superman, we had this with Christopher Reeves when he was Superman. There's a classic. Yeah. He's Superman. He flies off, comes back in the room as Clark Kent when he's going on a date.
He's all awkward and, like you say, and yeah.
And then he takes his glasses off when he wants to confess to Lois, and he suddenly grows like a foot in stature, and his voice becomes deeper, and you can tell he's confident. And I just found that with this. I just found that he played Bruce Wayne in a way that has always been alluded to, but not actually seen on screen before.
That is a fair point. I've always liked, particularly Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne, that he was kind of that little bit awkward, but he was quite a socialite and quite happy to be out and, speaking to people and chatting with people and all this kind of stuff. But in this, I thought Bruce Wayne was an emo. Yeah. But then what you're saying is that he was kind of an emo, if it's according to the comic books. I've never read the comic books, so I'm coming from a completely sort of not neutral stance. The only experiences I've got of Batman is the Adam West and the movies and that kind of thing. So I've never actually watched any of the cartoons either. So like I say, I'm very coming in it just as a movie person as opposed to a comic book person. So that's a fair point in what you say, that if he's playing Bruce Wayne in that way, the way that Bruce Wayne should be played, that was actually then quite good. I found it myself a bit frustrating, but now that you've just explained what Bruce Wayne should be like, that actually makes more sense.
Yeah, it was good. He was just again, if you go back to Christian Bale, especially in The Dark Knight, he was always, I know it was a persona he was putting on, but he was always comfortable in those surroundings. When he goes into the restaurant with the Russian model and he sits down with Rachel, and he calls the waiter over and goes, share the table.
I own the place, yeah.
As this Pattinson's one he doesn't want to be seen. There's a beautiful scene here where not right at the beginning, but Alfie's deciphering the code of the Riddler. And as Bruce walks in, he puts on a pair of sunglasses where he's not accustomed to being out during the day.
Okay.
Because he does
I did wonder why he put the sunglasses on, funny enough.
Yeah, because in the scene before, he says, the last 2 years, I've become a night owl or something. So, and I thought that was just such a lovely take where he just walks into the room and it's bright and he has to put glasses on where his eyes have, over 2 years, have become adjusted to being out at night.
Okay, so that is actually quite a nice little detail.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
What did you make of the rest of the cast?
I thought, the Penguin was obviously brilliant. The makeup was astonishing.
No, don't get me wrong. First of all, yes, the makeup was amazing, and yes, Farrell was brilliant. I just felt if you left the Penguin completely out of the movie, it wouldn't have changed anything.
Well, this is where they've played the long game, George, because what they've done is, as the film ends, you see the Penguin looking over the city.
Yeah.
Saying people are going to use it.
Yeah.
Now we're getting a Penguin spin-off TV show by HBO.
Oh, right.
So they're playing the long game with that. So they've set that up. So I think what you're going to get is, if they make a sequel to this, let's just call it The Batman 2, you're probably going to get The Batman 1.5 with the Penguin series where he's rising to crime and to be the head of the crime organisation. And then,
obviously, yeah. No, I was just going to say that's not. I nearly said a massive spoiler then, and I'm glad I didn't. My brain actually kicked in. But yeah, so okay, again, but it was kind of. If they are doing that, I still say, and I know you're a DC fan, but I still say that DC have been messy with everything that they've done. They have tried to copy what Marvel have done, and they haven't succeeded in doing it. And it's kind of, if they do a Penguin series, because they've got like a Gotham series as well, haven't they? Which again I haven't seen, but there's a Penguin in there as well, isn't there? And
yeah, ignore that. That's just painful. They are actually apparently making a Gotham police series.
Oh, okay, right.
So making 2 TV series. So I'm wondering if they're going to be linked to this Batman. But you're right, DC is a total mess.
It's a shame because they've obviously got a massive canon of these amazing characters, and they just haven't managed to gel them all together just yet with everything.
I wish they'd trying to.
Yeah, it's just kind of, if you build it. This is, let's just take the movies for example. You've got, and I know obviously you only have one movie, but you've got like Adam West, Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck. And now Robert Pattinson is like the 7th incarnation. And I know obviously that's over a long period of time. That's for granted. But this is another now dark and gritty, like Christian Bale's Batman type way of doing it.
Stark hit the nail on the head on one of the comments about the film where he said it's like Batman's become America's Bond.
Yes.
So I was thinking about that after I watched the film last night. I was thinking that's pretty spot on. You think about it, we had, let's say, movie Batmans rather than TV and everything else.
Yeah.
You had Keaton, who I say would probably be the equivalent of Connery, like the first proper movie Batman. Then they followed that up with
the real camp Roger Moore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Kilmer and Clooney, which would be the equivalent of, I suppose, Lazenby and I'm going to get shit for this, but Roger Moore, I don't like the Roger Moore, the Bond films, but you got that.
No, I don't mind them, but they did, Sean Connery was, he made quips and stuff like that, but he really set the character up. But then Roger Moore just did turn it into that campy type thing.
What they did is they pulled it back with Pierce Brosnan and Timothy Dalton when they grounded it a little bit more in reality, still had your gadgets, etc. So maybe that's the Christian Bale version where it is reality, but you've still got these fantastical gadgets and technology, etc. And perhaps now with Pattinson's background, we've now entered the Daniel Craig era of Batman. Where
so we're ignoring Ben Affleck, are we?
Yeah. Well, he was only in what? He's done the 3 films, but he wasn't like the main focal point, was he?
No.
Supporting cast. So, yeah, I'm dismissing that one. But
no, that's fair
I think we're probably in the really grounded, which isn't going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Like I say, I I did like him. I think Robert Pattinson is a brilliant actor. I think he did Twilight, and I'm going to put my hands up here, and I've said this before, but I thought the original Twilight was actually quite good.
Right.
You know, it was a decent take on a vampire flick. When they then started going off and doing all the sequels and everything else, I couldn't tell you a single thing about any of the follow-ups at all, because they were just all, you know, they do this with like the Hunger Games and a few other, you know, and Maze Runner as well. The first one's not bad, but then they just go off and, you know, try to extend the story and it doesn't work. And I think with Patterson, like I say, he had the chance to sort of do whatever he wanted to. He's been voted the world's sexiest guy or whatever, or he's been a top 10 or, you know, whatever. Oh, yeah, when you know, any girl that watches Twilight absolutely loves Robert Patterson. And so, but he didn't take that course. He actually took on roles which were more smaller, independent, where he's actually acting.
Yes.
And not that I'm saying he wasn't in Twilight, but, you know, there were proper meaty roles that he got, you know, like The Lighthouse, for example.
Yeah.
I can't imagine many Twilight fans would see that, and apart from the fact Robert Pattinson is in it, get it.
No, well, I haven't seen it. It's one of those films that's eternally on my watch list, but I never seem to be in the right frame of mind to watch it.
You have to be. Like I say, it's not like a family rom-com or that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's one of those. I've got a list of films that are films to watch when the wife's not here.
Yeah.
So I don't have to answer questions within 3 seconds.
You would get that all the way through. Lighthouse. So okay, what about the other thing that did annoy me was, and we're only going to, I think, briefly probably touch on this, was Jeffrey Wright's character, because he constantly seemed to have laryngitis.
I'll be honest with you.
Everything was very low and like this. What are we going to do, Batman? I don't know. And it was just all the way through. And it was kind of like, it reminded me very much of Ocean's 11, where everybody's trying to out-cool each other.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody's trying to be cooler than everybody else. And it was like he was up against Batman. So I'm going to be really cool and misty and talk like this when Batman's around. And it was just kind of, just talk properly. You know, or at least go, you know, just to clear the throat.
Yeah. No, you're spot. I'll be honest with you. I cannot stand Jeffrey Wright.
All right, fair enough.
For not just for his views on politics or anything else anyway, I just think he's probably one of the most overrated actors working today. I don't know how he gets these major parts. You hit the nail on the head when you said, you know, he's trying to be out cool. I think the bloke is so void of a personality that all the characters he plays are always like really like subdued and quiet and simmering. You know, Westworld, even in Boardwalk Empire, he was the same sort of character, sort of sat there, mumbled his lines through. I think the bloke's void of a personality, and I just don't think he's got the gravitas to bring even Commissioner Gordon to life.
Well, we've actually got a special guest joining us today. With quite the introduction. Yeah, like he's kind of one of those people that does turn up, but doesn't not stand out. I think of people like, for example, I don't know off the top of my head, Steve Zahn is somebody that when you see Steve Zahn in the movie, you go, no way, Steve Zahn, I love him. Whereas Jeffrey Wright is kind of, and he's just sort of there,
mumbling through a scene again.
Yeah, and then okay, what about Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman and Selena?
I thought she was great. I've got to be honest. I thought she was great, but I'm laughing because I couldn't. As soon as I see her in those high heel boots, because she's tiny, isn't it? I mean, she looks like 3 foot tall, and weighs about 3 stone soaking wet. When I started watching her, and she took her wig off and she had the short hair, she looked the part. I thought she would make a brilliant Prince if they made a biopic about Prince.
Which, with the way today's culture is going, may actually happen.
Yeah, exactly. So I couldn't help just comparing her to Prince. And for me, Catwoman has always been, you know, super sexy and, you know, a little bit of a minx and everything else. And for me personally, Kravitz doesn't have that. She's not.
No,
I don't find her sexy.
I'm in the same boat as you, that in the back of my mind, I kept thinking of the headlines that I read that where it said Zoe Kravitz said that Selena Kyle is bi in this movie. And I just kept thinking, it's just hitting that agenda again. You didn't have to say that. But ultimately, I was the same as you, that she is an attractive girl. Obviously, I'm not saying that, but there's nothing about her that makes me go, she's hot, she's fit, or anything else. She's just kind of there on screen.
Yes.
And I did feel that the chemistry between her and Patterson was lacking.
Okay. Yeah, I can't argue with that, mate. I think when you look at, and it's not fair to always compare
No.
actors and actresses to previous incarnations, but you know, Pfeiffer nailed it. I don't know if that's because I was, I was a young man at the time. Now just old and miserable. Pfeiffer nailed it, and I think even what was her name? Who was in the Nolan ones? Anne Hathaway.
Yeah,
Anne Hathaway.
Yeah.
She had an element of sexiness about her as well. I just thought she looked like a boy in a wig.
Hang on, are you talking about Kravitz?
Yes.
Right,
okay. She looked like a boy.
I mean, Anne Hathaway had that kind of, you say the sexiness, but the confidence.
Yeah.
She knew what she was doing, where Kravitz, okay, she felt vulnerable, which you can kind of understand because of the situation she's in. The other thing that got me was, and we're bordering on spoiler lines here, so I mean, I won't say anything, but the scene on the rooftop that they have where she explains her motive.
Yeah.
I took my glasses off and rubbed my eyes because it was kind of, really? That seemed to me like very lazy writing of explaining who she was.
Oh, I liked it.
No, really?
yeah, I really liked it because if you look at who was it wrote a review? Renee, was it Renee?
Wreckage. I can't remember his name now, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Anyway, he said he didn't understand. I think he put something like he didn't understand Catwoman's role in the film, but the whole role was obviously at the beginning he was Batman's key into getting into the club, finding out what elite were visiting the club, who was on drugs, who was on take. So that was a nice touch. Then obviously, I think I don't know how we can talk about this film without having spoilers, George.
Yeah.
I think we're just going to have to, mate.
No. I'll tell you what, we won't at the moment because, like I say, we will have a spoiler review thread up later on. So no, we won't. Like I say, that's what I was worried about it. But to me, that scene, I don't know. To me, that just felt like lazy writing. And then also the way she goes on about white male privilege and everything else. Again, it was like a sucker punch of what she just said, and then it was kind of, and also white males are horrible and blah blah blah, and it was just kind of really. And then again, this is, I suppose, mild spoilers, but I think most people, if you've seen the trailers, know this. They do kiss, and to me, to finish that scene with a kiss just didn't work for me at all.
See, I liked it. I listen. I'm the first to moan about the whole, agenda of Hollywood, and everything else. I hate it. I did groan when she went, it's just always about rich white men or whatever. But I like, and I think it's really difficult to try and explain this without giving away spoilers. What she revealed on the rooftop, like you said earlier. If you think about the person that with, it's like a minefield, isn't it?
I'll tell you what, let's move on then. Yeah, we'll concede that. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. So the other thing that we were going to mention was, obviously in general, sort of like looking through the whole thing, but I'm just trying to check my notes here now, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. You were talking boring crap. Man, loads of it. Oh, there we go. Right, okay. I just scroll up our whole conversation. So what did you make of the overall story?
Yeah, I liked it. It was long. I've got to be honest. Everyone is right when they say you could probably chuck 20 minutes or so out of the film. I don't mind a long film. I'd much rather watch a 3-hour movie than a movie that's only on for an hour and a half. So I never have a problem with 3-hour movies. But there was points in this film when I was thinking, I don't need to see that, or that's not necessary.
Yeah, I think, the length of the film is completely reliant on the content for me, obviously, because funny enough, when I was thinking about the length of it, and I recently watched again Infinity Wars and Endgame, and both of them are knocking on the 3-hour mark. Yes. So, there's 6 hours worth, but at no point through any of those movies did I actually think, oh, come on, move it along and get on with it. Whereas in this was much more, I felt like the Zack Snyder's Justice League, where it was a great film, not denying that, but there was a lot of kind of just get on with it. There's all this pontificating of slow motion and shots and everything else. And so this film, I did find myself quite often going, oh, come on, just move the story along, just hurry it up. And the 3-hour mark was far too long, I think, to hold people's attentions. And like you say, a lot of it, well, not a lot of it, obviously, 20-minute movie, brilliant. But a good 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes could have been DVD extras or a special edition later on HBO or something.
Yeah, I think they could have cut some stuff out. I mean, there was actually 2 blokes behind me, and they started, for the people in America that might be watching this, we don't have a talking or a phone issue here at cinemas in the UK.
No.
So
everybody's really polite, that's why.
Yeah. But there was 2 guys sitting behind me, and they were whispering in between the film, which I didn't mind. I was probably just talking about what had just happened. But then as the film got on, they got louder, and then their conversations were going on a little bit longer. And in the end, I turned around and I went like, "You need to shut up so I can watch the film." And then they did. And I've never really had that in a cinema before, where people start talking. So, I think,
again, it's kind of one of those things where if you're not that engaged with what's going on the screen, then obviously you are going to start looking at your phone or chatting to your mate or that kind of thing. And yeah, it's not the best. I do think, like I say, that a good section of it could have come out. Like I say, I know it sounds horrible, but all the penguin stuff could have come out, I thought, and then you could have actually just left the penguin in at the end, just with that final scene, which goes on, which we're not going to mention, which then could have set him up for a TV series. Because obviously, this is now weird. I completely forgot that Paul Dano was the Riddler in this.
Oh, really?
Well, no. Just talking about it now, and I'm thinking, right, we've been through the main cast, haven't we? Oh, wait, hang on.
Yeah, there's still plenty to go. Yeah.
Again, what did you make of him? Very different from Jim Carrey.
Oh my God. I've got to be honest. I thought he was brilliant. I think the way he delivered it. I mean, the first time you see him, again, without going into spoilers, but the first time he appears on screen was like, whoa, that's unpleasant.
Yes.
I just thought he was great.
Again, he's a good actor, but to me, he's kind of, when people said that Heath Ledger was going to play the Joker, everybody was like, kind of, really, Heath Ledger? He'd been in nicer movies and that kind of thing. Whereas to me, Paul Dano, it was like, I don't want to say an obvious choice, but he always plays that bad guy very well. And so it was kind of, I don't think he was stretching himself as an actor.
I think he was. Yeah, I think, like you said, when it was announced who he's going to be playing, you're kind of thinking, yeah, fine. But I think the way they did, because it was heavily influenced by the Zodiac Killer, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
But that was fine. And again, I've said it in the comments section, so I'm not spoiling anything here. I thought when I first saw the trailer that this was going to be Seven, but with Batman in it.
Yeah.
And it is basically, it's a 3-hour Seven movie. Instead of Mills and Somerset, you've got Batman.
I mean, that was a good way to take the direction that, I mean, Batman was obviously like a great detective in some of the early comics. I do know that. So to have him actually investigating,
yes,
I think more than what Christian Bale did, because Christian Bale's investigation just didn't, it wasn't really anything at all. Whereas this, he was thinking and mulling things over, and he saw the blood on the floor. And this is in the opening sequence. I'm not spoiling anything.
Yeah,
which the photographer hadn't even noticed yet, the police photographer and stuff. And from that respect, it was good that he was obviously a very intelligent person who needed to solve these crimes.
Yeah, I can't. And they had that nice voiceover as well, Batman talking, what he's been up to as well at the beginning. And I thought that was a nice. Again, they said it was going to be like a detective noir film, so
yeah,
I hit the nail on the head with that as well. Again, George, I left the cinema. I am a DC fanboy, but I know they've got faults. I do know that. I'm not particularly a Batman fan. I've said before, I think he's a bit of an arsehole. I think if he just killed some of these villains, he probably would have saved thousands of lives.
So that's a fair point.
I got in there with rose-tinted glasses, and when I left the cinema, I was like, yeah, that's probably a 3, maybe a 3.5 stars. But then I thought about it all last night. I thought about it this morning, and I'd probably, remembering things I didn't remember at the time, I'm going to push it up to like a 4.5 for me.
See, for me, I didn't know what to expect from this film in any way, shape, or form. I'd stayed away from most of the trailers. I think the only clip I'd actually seen was the one of the penguin in the car, which we put up on the site last week or so. That is literally the only clip I'd seen. So I'd stayed away from everything. I didn't know what to expect, but for me, it was the whole thing was too dark and broody, and too just that bit artsy. I like some of the close focus shots and depth of field and all that kind of stuff, but then it kind of kept doing it all the time. And I think they work on certain levels, but when you do them too often, it just becomes a sort of and I mean the one that really bears in mind is when the Riddler, I won't say who, but he kills somebody and it focuses just on the steering wheel of the car while he's taking this guy. Right. And again, it was just kind of just either show it or don't do this deep, because I mean this is exactly what I had the problem with Army of Darkness, Schneider's Army of Darkness. He uses deep focus all the time, and you use deep focus when you're entrapped in somewhere to sort of show the claustrophobia, and it didn't. A lot of the times it just didn't need those shots in there. I thought it was far too arty for its own good.
See, I've always said it. I like my superheroes dark and gritty. I like it dark and moody, especially Batman. I can understand you can't really do that sort of thing with,
Shazam.
Yeah, exactly. This is the place to do it, and I love the style of the film. There's even parts where it's being filmed. I mean, this isn't a spoiler. There's a bit at the end where the mayor's giving a speech, but there was like the focus on the outside was slightly blurry, as if the rain was actually hitting the cameras that was filming it, and it just looked nice. So if you look at Marvel films, they're all like 4K, everything's crystal clear. To me, they look like cartoons. But this looked gritty. It looked like the cameramen who were filming the scenes were actually getting dirty and muddy at the same time. They wasn't shielded. And I know Matt Reeves has this style. You look at the Planet of the Apes. He clearly likes a little bit of mud and rain. The bloke's obviously a bit weird, but I just like the British. Everything wasn't perfect. Everything wasn't perfect. I liked that. I liked some things were a little bit out of focus, and
I mean, I see where you're coming from, but to me, it was kind of it did it far too much for far too long.
Right.
And I just after a while it was kind of like, oh look, it's another deep and meaningful shot. Oh look, there's another deep and it was just kind of, we get it. You're trying to be dark and moody and stuff, but for me, like I say, those, particularly those depth of field shots, you do that when if it's like a prison drama or something, then yes, you have that because you're enclosed and But Gotham always felt quite open and big, and so using these shots kind of just distracted me, at least, from what was actually then going on.
Oh no, I was totally engrossed, and I took my son, my youngest, with me. He's 14, and yes, I know the films are 15, but he's tall enough. And he didn't take his eyes off the screen. And then afterwards, I said, "How did you find that?" And he said it's one of the best films he's ever seen.
Yeah, he's only 14 though.
He's 14. I'm just going to move my mouse here, George, because I think there we go. That's better. But again, that just goes to prove that not all kids and not all people like the shiny Marvels. There are some that don't like it. And I think that's a lot of the. I think Marvel are so powerful and so big and so successful that anything that strays from that formula, people are a little bit like, oh.
I get what you're saying, but also conversely, like you just said, that they do make films which are very polished and clean and everything else. So when they do when somebody makes something which is very then dark and dirty, for example, this, and also the Joker, which again is one of those movies which is very dark and dirty and realistic and everything else. It can be seen as a breath of fresh air if you're so used to these superhero movies being so clean and pristine and everything. But I don't know, we had a dark and dirty and broody Batman versus Superman and the Justice League, because obviously they were done in that similar style as well, which was very, that done that way. And again, it was just another, here's an even darker, moodier one. I'm imagining the sort of 17th incarnation will be shot totally in the dark, and all you'll have is, just as,
But again, that goes back to the whole difference between DC and Marvel. And this is what annoys me about DC, where they're just constantly trying to copy Marvel. DC fans like myself and a lot of people, all the DC fans that I know, don't particularly. We appreciate the Marvel films, there's some of them are good fun.
Yeah.
But we all like the dark and gritty nastiness of it all. That's why we're fans of DC and not particularly fans of Marvel.
Oh, fair enough.
At the time, DC realised this and realised that the two audiences are actually completely different. I mean, the success they had with the Dark Knight trilogy, the success they had with Burton's Batman. I know people slag Man of Steel off. I like it. But you still, the Snyderverse, look at the fan reaction when they wanted the Snyderverse, when they wanted Justice League done. Joker, what did they make like $1 billion or something? And they made it for like 20p.
I think it's Hollywood slowly getting to the understanding that comic book fans are not just comic book fans. There are DC and Marvel fans and all this kind of stuff. And they're a bit, I know they're pandering to sort of the very small community of who want this and everything else. And that I think they're slowly learning that that's not working. And so they're trying to steer away from that. Yeah. But they just need to make fans or make movies for the fans, by people, not necessarily, because we've had this discussion before, of not necessarily people who are fans of the comic books, but have just got that respect for the property.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, Marvel are comic books. DC are graphic novels.
Yeah, that's a good way.
And they are completely different. I look at Marvel films, and Doctor Strange was advertised last night, and I just sit there going, yeah, that looks like a bit of fun. I'll bring the kids to see that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I must admit I'm in the same boat.
It's like out of curiosity more than anything else. My brother, bless him, he's a massive Marvel fanboy. I've said it before. They could make a 2-hour film of Rocket Raccoon looking for somewhere to take a crap in the woods, and he'll tell me it's the greatest thing he's ever seen. He's going to see the Batman tonight, and I'll guarantee you he's going to hate every single second of it. And he'll say to me, and I'm going to show him this. I'll show you this tomorrow. He's going to say to me, it was dark and it was depressing and it was moody and there was no fun in it. And my response is, it's DC and it's bloody Batman. And did you watch the trailers before you went and see it? What are you expecting?
Yeah, that's funny enough. I watched this morning, just getting completely off the point, but I watched this morning a movie called Big Ass Spider. And it was a cheesy B movie with Greg Grumbar and Ray Wise in it. It was bloody awful, but it was just made as a stupid movie about a giant spider, and it thoroughly entertained me because it was exactly what it said on the tin. And I think, like you say, what you've said is, if you're going to see a DC movie, you are not going to be having a happy-go-lucky Rocket Raccoon running around, having fun, making quips and everything else. It is going to be a darker movie, like you say, a graphic novel.
That's exactly it. And, this Batman film was heavily influenced by The Long Halloween, year 1, year 2. Some people, you have a look at the source material before you sort of go in there and start steaming into it. That would be my advice, because it's going to be completely different to anything you've seen probably for the last 10 odd years. Is there another superhero? Is there a super? Nothing comes similar to it.
Well, no, like I say, if you're talking in the last 10 years, like I say, Joker, similar to it.
Yeah, I'll give you that, Joker. But everything else.
No, like I say, there's not much else which comes close to it. So, overall then, obviously you really liked the film.
Yeah, I did. Afterwards, I was like, yeah, that was a good film. But as, we're nearly 24 hours later now, and I'm thinking, actually, that was the nuts, and I'm going to go and see it again. His suit, for example, the bat suit, it looked like it had been made by him and maybe even Alfred. It looked like it was tactical. He even had night vision goggles on his waist and everything.
He could turn his head as well.
His head. But it looked like he'd built on it. Oh, because this was apparently his second year as Batman. He looked like he built on it, having learned from experience on the job. Which I read, with the spike things. There was, again, not spoiling anything, there's one scene where he had this like retractable gun and he didn't fight, so he had to physically push it back in.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like a wrist thing. He had to physically retract it. You've got the scene which is in the trailer where he's jumping off the building,
yes,
the police building. So again,
and he does it all up, and
yeah, it's basically a wingsuit, which you tell that the way he activated it would look like they'd been in a situation before where he needed something like that, so he's implemented it into his scene. And the way that scene ends, you know that if they make a sequel, the problem that arose is that's going to be rectified in the next one.
See, again, that kind of scene kind of annoyed me because I thought, yes, I mean, all right, I appreciate he's quite a tough person, but I don't see how breaking every bone in his body, he still gets up and walks away.
Well, he's wrapped up in that armour, George. He's wrapped up in
the other thing that I found mildly annoying was, and this, funny enough, I mean, the film is very much like, but a Blade Runner, how you've got the Blade Runner and there's about 5 different versions of that, the theatrical cut and the director's cut and blah, blah, blah. I felt the narration, wasn't needed.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It kind of, the way that they had it just at the beginning and just at the end, and then, I mean, thinking about it now, that is the same way where the Blade Runner did it, but I've always preferred the Blade Runner without the narration, so that you just find out who these people are as the story goes along, right, as opposed to explaining anything. And it just felt strange to put it into the beginning, then put it into the end, and then not put any of the over the top of the movie. If you're going to have a voiceover, do it all the way through. Like a weird example, like Ferris Bueller, he talks to the camera, right, but then he does it all the way through the film, so that he's, interacting. And then, so if you're going to put a voiceover in a movie, put it over the whole lot. Don't just put it in at the beginning and the end.
Right. Okay. Well, I think my take on that was because you see him writing in a diary. Batman's got a diary in this.
Yeah.
And I think it's actually called Year 2, which was a nice little nod. But I think what that does for me, it's like they're pages of his diary, so it introduces you to day one, which is Halloween. I think it starts on Halloween, doesn't it? Mm. And then obviously it ends. I think the span of the film is about a week.
Oh yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but yeah.
It says it's like now November the 6th or whatever, and then obviously it closes out with him giving another voice over, like we said. So I think you meant to interpret it as 7 days of his a diary, as if he was reading it, and he's reading it back to himself, or he's not reading it back to himself. He's actually making
notes as he's going.
Oh yeah, that's the way I saw it.
Right, and another thing that kind of annoyed me was, and again, this is difficult without going into spoiler territory, but I felt what the Riddler was trying to achieve at the end was too over the top.
Right.
And I got the impression that what Riddler really wanted to do was expose Batman for who he was. And it looked like he could do that, but he didn't. He was just trying to do something else, which is at the end of the film, which we're not going to spoil. But again, it's, to me, if he'd have done what what's his name, J.K. Simmons did at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home, no, not No Way Home, the previous one, where he comes on and he says, Spider-Man is Peter Parker.
Yeah.
If the Riddler had done that to Batman, that's where I thought he was going to go with the whole situation. That would have been much more of a dramatic ending than the ending that I felt I got.
But Riddler doesn't know who Batman is.
But he does. Of course he does. He doesn't.
He doesn't. If you rewatch that scene, if you watch it again, where they're interviewing a back and forth.
Yeah.
Again, without giving spoilers away, if you listen carefully, he doesn't know who Batman is.
I really didn't get that from him.
We'll have to talk after, and I'll explain it to you. He doesn't know. That was the thing. He doesn't know who Batman is.
See, I really didn't get that. I got the impression that he knew exactly who he was and that he was going to expose him, but like I say, he took a different route.
No, he doesn't know who he is. Because my son asked me the same thing. And I said,
there you go. All right, we'll talk about that afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, I probably will revisit it when it comes out on streaming, but I'm not in a massive hurry to, and I don't see my viewpoint changing on it. To me, it was a 2.5 at best.
I agree that the length was too long, but I think it's one of those films that needs time to sink in and I think it probably needs another viewing without a doubt, because I think there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I liked it.
Again, like I say, I didn't know what to expect when I was watching it, and so when it did wash over me, I was kind of right, okay, not sure how I feel about that. Whereas, like I say, maybe if I had seen the trailers and everything else, it might have set me up and put me in a better frame of mind for it. But
my advice, mate, would be read The Long Halloween,
right,
read Year 1 and Year 2. Also check out. Hold on, I need to get my notes because I can't say his name without reading it. Check out the comics by Brian Azzarello, I think I've said that right, and art by Lee Bargimo, because they're basically their comics brought to life on the screen. And one of them in particular is Batman, Damned, and Joker.
Okay.
If you check those 2 graphic novels out, I think you'll get a really good understanding of what this film was trying to achieve, because it literally brought the pages to life.
No, fair enough. All right. Well, like I say, I can't argue with that. I mean, I will, but I can't. Right. I mean, like I say, I don't think it's going to change much. We will have a complete thread on there so that you all of our readers can discuss it in length. And tomorrow, which will be Sunday, we're going to be on the live stream. You've got family stuff to do.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's my third son's 17th tomorrow, so we're all going to be out.
As opposed to just talking to 3 random guys on the internet.
And do you know, it's really piss poor timing, because I'd love to have chatted to you guys about it.
I'm sure it will come up again. But I mean, like I say, because I mean, I don't know how many people have actually gone to see it. It's sort of unusual for us all to have seen it. I wasn't massively bothered about seeing it. It's only because I had a gift card for my local cinema that I thought, yeah, go on, I'll check it out.
I've got one of those Odeon passes.
Oh, we've got a Cineworld near us.
Yeah, so they do a pass. It's like, I think my one is about £15 a month, and you go as many times as you like.
Cineworld's the same. I've got to admit, I'm just not a fan of going to the cinema anymore. I do much prefer streaming.
Obviously, no,
it depends what it is. I mean, like I say, last year, Dune was one thing I had to see on the big screen, and I'm really glad I did. But yeah, like I say, I don't know. There's certain things that will come out that I will go and see, but annoyingly, like anything Star Wars, I will go and see it in the cinema. But you know, my expectations for those are now way low.
Yeah. Well, my local cinema, I've just got all the recliner seats in.
Oh right, okay.
So you sit down, and they're all electric recliner seats. You're basically sitting on a sofa. I went to see The Godfather 50th anniversary on Tuesday at one of my mates, and it was just, they got like a big, it's called an iSense screen. It's just like a big, as far as the eye can see, you know, like a mini IMAX really.
Oh, right, fair enough.
And it's great. And I think for, like I said, £15 a month to go as many times as you want, it's just
it's not bad. I must admit also, and this, I'm not taking anything away from this, but the first 10 minutes of the movie, for me, they didn't have the central speaker working on the 5.1 system, and so everything sounded really tinny. And the right hand front speaker kept crackling quite a lot of the way through. Not all the way through, but enough to be annoying. And at first, I wasn't sure if it was in the film or not, because it was a bit where I think he was looking back over some recordings, and I thought, maybe it's on there, but then I noticed it afterwards, and I went on Twitter and said to Cineworld about it. Again, I can understand that, and that doesn't take anything away from the movie, but it was just kind of annoying that happened. Like you had guys talking behind you. Yeah,
well, they didn't talk for long. After I told them to shut up.
There is nothing worse than that.
I think Rene, I hope I'm saying that right. I think he must have had problems with the audio at his cinema as well, because he said he felt that the film score was absent during the film, and I was like, oh God, it was overpowering at times.
One thing I did really take from this, I can't remember it off my head, but the musical score was really great with the piano. Was fantastic.
Yeah.
That just one other thing to mention as well, just as it comes into my mind. I can't say I was a massive fan of the action.
No?
I thought the first fight was very, I was expecting something better. And I mean, for me, I think it was either in the Batman versus Superman or the Justice League. The fight where Batman has in that was like, whoa, that was good. Whereas this was just kind of, And
the reason being is, the Batman, Batfleck, he's probably our age, 40 odd. He's been doing it 20 odd years, and he's more accomplished. And even if you look at Nolan's trilogy, we see Batman going off and training and probably everything else. So I think with this Batman, he's only 2 years in, and he's like driven by rage, which is how Batman really is.
Oh, fair enough.
Right, he's got the skills, but it's just
they're not honed.
No, it's just absolutely just pure brutality, and he's not got to the stage in his career yet, or even in his personal life as Bruce Wayne, where he's accustomed to these dual roles, which hopefully, if they make a sequel, it'll be more refined over time. But this was just pure brute force, nothing more. It's savagery. We've seen the clip 1,000 times when in the trailer in the subway where he's beating that bloke up with a white face paint. I mean, it's just pure rage. There's no.
I did wonder, and again, I don't think this is spoiler territory because it's in kind of in one of the opening scenes, but I did wonder whether those guys' makeup was based on Joker. So whether Joker is an established character in this new universe that they've created.
Yeah.
Because for me, I got the impression that at the end of Joker, everybody's wearing this clown makeup and wearing the masks and stuff. And these kids at the beginning of this one had similar makeup that was all up and scarred. And I did think, I wonder if they're actually, Joker's already established himself, but he has been arrested and put in Arkham or whatever it might be.
George, we need to chat after this is streamed. Must have fallen asleep in some of this film. When I tell you something in a minute, you're going to be like, what the fuck?
Fair enough. Okay, well, that's enough about that. Join us on the live stream and make sure you visit lastmovie.outpost.com. Apart from that, thank you, Eggy.
Cheers. See you later.